welcome to this is day 4 of our September session. Really happy to share this time with you all. Thanks for checking it out. If it's your first time, thanks for coming again. This is a ongoing practice with it's a gift that keeps on giving, or the torture chamber that never stops hurting. And everything in between. So let's see. I just had a couple of just kind of logistical notes to get started. If people are noticing weird kind of like pacing with the fast walking, just to clarify, the way we do it here is um, you try to pace yourself like during the fast walking part. You try to pace yourself so that you're passing your seat when the person in front of you is passing their seat. So we kind of, that's how you kind of get that equal kind of distance kind of a thing. So if you pass your seat and the person in front of you is way past their seat, then you can speed up a little bit. If you pass your seat and the person in front of you is way in front of their seat, then you can slow down so you can kind of all stay in the same spacing the whole time. So there's that. Also encourage everybody, our main guideline in sesshin is to be compassionate to yourself. And the tricky part about that is that sometimes that means taking a break or grabbing a chair to sit in, or moving if you're feeling a little uncomfortable. Sometimes that's the most compassionate thing. And other times, it's actually the most compassionate thing to push through a little bit. I feel like I need a break, but I'm actually going to really sit with it. I'm just going to keep on going. So it's really kind of up to each one of us to know what the right amount of challenge versus, when I need to slow down a little bit. So yeah, I just wanted to share those, but everyone's, this is such a cool opportunity to sit with, mostly people that are new to sesshin practice. And so you should definitely pat yourselves on the back. The big theme right now going around in Sweetwater is that sitting is a form of rebellion, a form of resistance, which is not what we're used to. We usually think of resistance as, going out and fighting the good fight. But really, kind of like what Wayu Sensei said this last Sunday, the powers that be want us to continue to feel divided. They want us to entrench ourselves even more deeply in our opinion, our side, our beliefs. But this Zazen practice really is about opening up and letting go, being still and listening. And so, yeah, I really think that sesshin isn't so much, a break from the world. It's actually a very engaged kind of stand, taking a stand. Like, no, I will slow down. I will open up and see that I am, in fact, one with everything. That will break down the oppressive systems pretty effectively, I think. So I've been talking this week about a series of koans, which are like kind of short stories or parables that we use as kind of a curriculum in our Zen training here. So on Tuesday or Wednesday, I talked about a koan from the first grouping of 200 miscellaneous koans that we do. And then yesterday, I talked about a koan from the Gateless Gate, which is the first formal collection that we study. And then today we'll move on to the Blue Cliff Record, which is the second kind of formal collection that we study. And this particular collection was compiled by Hakuin, who actually isn't that old. I think he was maybe 18th or 19th century. So these stories are very old, sometimes, thousands of years old. But this actual collection was put together, yeah, just a few hundred years ago. And what else can I say? I don't know. Let's just dive in. There's no particular theme. I'm just kind of picking koans that stand out today, and hopefully they inspire us in some kind of way. So, here's the story. When Layman Ho took leave of Yakusan, Yakusan had 10 Zen students see him to the gate. The layman pointed to the snow in the air and said, "Fine snowflakes. They don't fall elsewhere." At the time, a Zen student named Zen said, "Where do they fall?" The layman slapped him. The monk said, "Even a layman shouldn't be crude." The layman said, "The likes of you call yourself a Zen student? The king of death hasn't let you off." The monk said, "Well, how about you, layman?" The layman slapped him again and said, "Your eyes see as if blind, your mouth speaks as if dumb." Secho said as an alternative, "At the first question, I'd have made a snowball and struck." This is making me think, hold on, did Secho compile these? I thought it was Hakuin. Let me see if I can. I can't find it. Anyway, Secho is an old Japanese guy who shows up a lot with his little commentaries. I thought maybe he compiled these. No, it was Hakunin. Anyway, don't quote me on that. So let's take a look at this story. What does this have to do with anything? So Layman Ho, or Layman Pang or Pang, also known in Chinese. He's like, so layman is like us. We are lay people. We have not left our homes to go to the mountains and shaved our heads and, abandoned all worldly goods and wear robes. We are householders, and we wear regular clothes, and we have hair. So we are lay people, lay practitioners. And Layman Ho is like probably the most famous ancient Zen lay practitioner that we hear about. And he received transmission from like multiple of the big major Chinese Zen teachers of the time. And he was well revered as this, really strong, adept lay practitioner back in the day. So he was there visiting Yakusan. Yakusan is one of these, really famous monks back in the day. And when he's leaving, Yakusan had 10 of his senior students see him out. It's like a display of honor. We will give you a procession out of here. So they're walking to the gate, and it's snowing. And Layman Ho points to the snow and he says, "Fine snowflakes. They don't fall elsewhere." So he's talking about these snowflakes, but really he's offering us an invitation to live like that. A fine, sweltering September afternoon. It can't help it. It can't happen elsewhere. A fine pain in my tummy. It couldn't happen any other way. A fine experience of grief. It couldn't happen to anyone else. So yeah, to really just Other translations say the perfect snowflake. Perfect snowflakes. They don't fall elsewhere. Um, how much time do we spend wishing we were elsewhere? Wishing we were somebody else? Wishing it was some other way? Different snowflakes, different weather, different set of circumstances. I do all the time. I catch myself thinking about that. So, yeah, I think this practice of rebellion, slowing down, not taking the bait, right? That's the thing about our world. There's so much bait out there. Forget about capitalism, just, TikTok and phones and commercials and billboards just constantly begging us to wish we were another way, to wish the world was another way, to wish I had more of this, to wish I had better that. Um, so, man, what if we could be free from that? And just see these perfect snowflakes right now. 3 perfect snowflakes sitting in front of me right now. 4, I should say. So that's a huge invitation. Um, just this, perfect. At that time, a Zen student named Zen, it's weird. Um, oops, sorry. So, these are senior students, but, there's still, some of them are at different points in their practice. And so this guy decides to kind of take it to a philosophical place, right? So he's like, where do they fall? What is this? What is the world? Um, Everything's always changing. So who knows where he was coming from? It could have been a very earnest question. It could have been a kind of snarky, like, I've read lots of Dharma stuff, and there is emptiness, and where can emptiness fall, and all that stuff. But either way, no matter where he's coming from, he's taking it away from just be with this, and he's kind of like intellectualizing, right? He's taking it from this visceral experience of appreciation and putting it into this kind of intellectual realm. Where is here? It's a little much. And so the layman slaps him. And we see a lot of slapping in these koans. There's a lot of stick hitting and a lot of slapping. Um, and it's not really censure or punishment. In a way, it's kind of an act of love. It's a sharing of, like, just this right here. Where else are you going? What else do you need to understand? Just open up your mouth and let the flakes fall in. Stop worrying about, saying it the right way or having the right, you know, the right, being right, figuring it out. Let go of that and just appreciate this moment, these wind chimes. Um, so, yeah, that slap is like this timeless attempt at connection. You and I sharing this moment right now. But the monk is just kind of taken aback, and he said, even a layman shouldn't be crude, which just shows how kind of out of touch this guy is. Um, to make these distinctions between monk and lay person. Um, you know, we are particularly susceptible to this in the West, because we still are kind of hanging on to some of these old like Japanese forms, and we have like priests who wear robes and different color rakusus and titles and things like that. And those can serve a purpose as long as we take on those things genuinely and earnestly. But to fall into this trap of like, oh, I'm a monk, so I've really taken the vows, or I really have a strong practice. You're just a lay person, so you don't really get it. And they still do that in Japan. I was in Japan on a Zen, like international Zen conference last year, and I was talking with one of our monk guides, and I said, he spoke a little English, and I said, how do you feel about, people like me running Zen centers and being teachers, even though I haven't become a monk and shaved my head? And he said, well, I really, really hope that one day you do, because then you'll really have it. And that's just really too bad. That's the only way I can say it. And that's why a lot of, Western teachers have kind of separated themselves from Japan, because our lineage in Japan is all about the pomp and circumstance. And it's just, a lot of like money making funeral service kind of bureaucracy, and they put a whole bunch of weight on, doing their training. They even said, while we were there, they were like, you'll never experience Zazen unless you come here for 3 years and train with us, which is just ridiculous. I mean, just by definition, it's so silly. So yeah, we still struggle with this, I wear robes, so I am better than you. When we even have these famous folks like Layman Ho, who is like a major teacher. So yeah, so he's here like even a layman shouldn't be crude. And so then Ho says, the likes of you call yourself a Zen student? The king of death hasn't let you off. So now he's getting a little bit aggressive. What a silly thing to say, to separate us, to categorize us. You're better than me because you wear a certain thing. It's so silly. The king of death has not let you off. So in a way, if we really penetrate this practice, which just means penetrating our life, then we can, as the early Buddhists talked about, leave this cycle of birth and death. To think that I am a thing that is born and will die, is totally centered on this concept of self. And yeah, I mean, on one level, of course, we are separate people, and we'll have a funeral and we have a birth certificate, but that's just this little impermanent nothing body. Our true self, the self that goes beyond or bigger than just my little set of circumstances that I inherited for whatever reason. My true self that is not slave to conditions and circumstances. That doesn't get born or die. That is timeless and spaceless, formless, totally one throughout space and time. So what is that true self? How do I get to know that? And if you do get intimate with that true self, then yeah, you'll see this idea of death, that I go away, it's delusion. It's so silly. This little impermanent thing might go away, but that's not me. So yeah, this guy is still living in this world of I am a monk and I did this and I'm thinking about where is the So yeah, the king of death has not let you off. You're still stuck in your little self. So the monk finally says, okay, well, how about you? What do you have to say? And the layman slaps him again. Just this. Just this moment. The whole universe is embodying this moment together. That's true self. And then he kind of keeps going at him. He says, your eyes see as if blind, your mouth speaks as if dumb. So yeah, you really don't get it. You're really stuck in yourself. Which I think that's kind of the traditional way to see that. But also, there's this notion, let's see, this might get a little in the weeds, but your eyes see as if blind. You see with no eyes. In a way, if we twist it a little bit, I don't know what use there is, but um, when we fully embody this moment, when we truly see that even our eyes, even our perceptions are totally empty, totally impermanent, then yeah, we're all walking around just blind. There's another koan that says, why does the Western barbarian have no beard? And it's a koan because the Western barbarian, who is known as Bodhidharma, he was an actual historical figure, was known for having a huge beard. So why is it that he doesn't have a beard? How do we see with no eyes? It's our concepts, it's our ideas of things that give us eyes, that give us beards and robes and lives to have or not have. But when we can really let go and see that all of our perceptions, all of our concepts of things are just mental constructs, then yeah, all of us see with no eyes and speak with no tongue. And I have no beard. And there's no I. Anyway, that's not usually how we talk about this, but I kind of like that. So in a way, yeah, he's just saying, yeah, we're all, the layman says, what about you? What do you have to say? Or the monk says that. And the layman says, well, we're all just here totally one. Don't get caught up in your ideas about things. So that's where the story ends. And then Secho, who Secho lived hundreds of years after Yakusan and Layman Ho. But he always comes in, like I said, with these kind of like cool, punchy commentaries in these koans. And so he adds, at the first question, I'd have made a snowball and struck. So here, the first question is actually what the layman says. Find snowflakes, they don't fall elsewhere. And you might say, well, that's not a question. But just kind of to give you a sense of this like Zen koan vibe, very often things like this, even if it's a statement, if someone's gonna like make a point to be like, find snowflakes, they don't fall elsewhere, it's kind of like a prompt. It's like a little like, let's connect. What do you have to say about that? How do you see the snowflakes, right? And the monk took the bait. He took the bait with something not so good, but that's why he says it's a question. At the first offering, at the first invitation, I would have made a snowball and struck. So why would he do that? Why would he make a snowball and hit the layman after saying, "Fine snowflakes"? Um, well, I don't want to give it all away, but fuck it. He's like taking it a little bit farther, because when we truly have that appreciation, when we truly do see the perfection of this moment, there's no need to say anything about it. Uh, it's kind of like the vibe I'm getting is kind of like, uh, so like I'm a musician. I went to music school and I was in the music industry for a long time. And something I noticed really quickly was that the really good players, the really like talented, plugged in, successful music people would never talk about music like at a party. They would talk about baseball or clothes or relationships or whatever. But like the eager beavers who were like still learning and didn't really have anything going for them yet, they're the ones who would want to like chew your ear about, oh, I met this person, and oh, what about this, chordal structure and blah, blah, blah. And so you can just kind of tell when you really are aligned with your values, aligned with the universe, confident in your understanding, then there's no need to say anything about it. It just speaks for itself. And it definitely happens in Zen. People walking around spouting everything they know about Buddhism. I'm sure it happens in, all kinds of spiritualities, yoga and Christianity, and the folks who are new and really excited and want to talk about this teacher and that saying and this pose and that. Nah, nah, nah. It's pretty clear that they're, kind of just getting started. And yeah, the Zen masters who have been practicing for 40 to 50 years, they want to talk about, the pain in their hip. um, so yeah, so Secho is kind of pointing that out. It's like, why even open your mouth? Just enjoy the snow. And he's being playful. He's being playful. He's, that's how we enjoy oneness with snow, is we have a snowball fight. There's like a levity to it. And you can see that contrast with this monk who's like, but where do they fall? It's like, chill out. Just be with this. Okay, so that is our Blue Cliff record koan. And there was one more thing I wanted to share. I told myself I'd share it at the beginning. And then I said to myself, wouldn't it be funny if I totally forgot to share it at the beginning? I totally did. The mind is amazing. But if you're still with me here, I wanted to share a story that I read in some of these commentaries as I was preparing today for this talk. It's a story about Milarepa. Milarepa is one of the like old Tibetan masters, like early scriptures talk about him. And he was known for being this like super, ascetic, living in a cave by himself. He only wore, a thin sheet even through the toughest winters, and he only ate boiled nettles and all this, austerity kind of stuff. And he had the strongest meditation practice in the whole nation, and yada yada. But he's like a major Buddhist figure. And I read this story today that's so cool. So he's out on a walk one day and he comes back to his little cave, and the cave is full of demons. And they're like messing with all of his stuff and jumping around and being scary. And so at first he tries to, I forget, he like asks them to leave, or he shows them love and kindness and asks, trying to get them to leave, reasoning with them. But they don't. They just keep on going. And he yells at them, and they don't care, and they keep on, ravaging his cave. I don't know what that means. And then he says, these demons are just a product of my mind, so I'm going to sit in meditation and let go of them. And so he's sitting there with all of his powerful meditation, and they don't care. They're still there. The demons are still wreaking havoc. And then he finally says, all right, you win. And he goes, I guess he says, I know what to do. And he finds the biggest, scariest demon of them all, and he thrusts his head inside of its mouth. And he says, go ahead and eat me. And at that point, the demons were like, shit, yeah, we got nothing anymore. And they disappeared. And I just think that's such a perfect metaphor for what Zazen is. Zazen is throwing ourselves into the demon's mouth. It's so tempting to think of meditation as this tool to make things go away. I'm stressed, so I'll meditate so I'm not stressed anymore. I'm angry and frustrated, so I'll meditate so I can let go of the anger and frustration. But in fact, if we can see our meditation as throwing ourselves into the throat of anger, not trying to make it go away, just being so 100% anger, 100% grief, 100% excitement, 100% self love, 100% self loathing, whatever is arising, to just surrender to it without trying to make it go away. That's the thing. If we use our meditation practice as a transactional thing to get some kind of outcome, I don't know how, it might work here or there, once or twice. I don't know. Maybe it works for you. For me, it has not. But to really use meditation to just get gobbled up by all of the demons and all of the angels that are coming up without trying to fix it, that's where we can really open up to each snowflake, each demon being absolutely perfect right here as it is. Thank you for listening. As always, I hope there is enough water in the Pacific Ocean to rinse my words from your ears. And let's keep on sitting real strong for the next day and a half. Use this time to get gobbled up.